My goal tonight is actually to talk to you about my passion. So I'm the youth instructor for the town of North Reading. But for fun, I'm a scuba diver, and just to talk to you a little bit about my journey and how I became interested in sharks. So I'll start off with that story, how I became the daughter of two golfers, turned into a passionate scuba diver. And it's kind of interesting. So when I was 13, I was the student ambassador to Russia. In the following year, my delegation was supposed to go to England, and my uncle had married a British girl, so I didn't want to go to England again at age 14. The neighboring community was going to Australia and New Zealand for a marine biology. I'm never going to be able to go there again in my life at age 14. I'm never going to get there in my life. I want to go to Australia and New Zealand. And so when I was 14, I did do that, and I was very fortunate to do a snorkel on the Great Barrier Reef. And it kicked off everything for me. So in the world of recreational diving and professional diving, you can't obviously get certified at age 14 to be a fully independent recreational diver at age 14. But what happened for me was I was snorkeling on the Great Barrier Reef, and for the first time in my life, I saw a diver underneath me. And that diver was carefully inspecting every fish and every anemone and every piece of the reef. And I thought to myself, I want to be down there. I don't want to be up here. I want to be down there. Thus spurred my interest in scuba diving. Well, I had to wait for another 6 years because you can get a very basic certification when you're young, but you have to have a diving parent. My mom was a diving parent, a platform diver. She was not a scuba diver. My mom is from Miami, actually, and she, when she was very young, was actually recruited to be in the Olympics as a professional, as a competitive platform diver and swimmer. She ended up opting not to do that because she would have had to quit school to train full time. So I did not have a diving parent, so I had to wait until I was 20, and I studied at Boston College. I have a degree in communications, but I have a minor in environmental studies. And I thought this might be an opportunity for me to go do a semester abroad in Australia, which I did. And in Australia, they have a week off for Easter break. It's a little different than here, and everybody said, well, when you have your Easter break, and by the way, it was a little different than spring break, go travel. And so what I did is I took off by myself to Fiji, and for the sole purpose of getting a scuba certification. What happened was I was the only student in the class. My instructor was a very large Fijian man, and being from Boston College, I used to wear a Doug Flutie jersey t-shirt. And every day after class, he would come and he would surprise me and tackle me into the water. And he said, if you can pass this class, I'm going to give you a present because you survived my class. And again, this guy was like giant, Fijian guy. His name was Bali. I just remember his name. Long story short, I passed this class. I became a certified PADI open water diver. And his gift to me was my very first scuba dive was going to be a gift to me on him. It was a shark dive. And so what happened was I didn't sleep the whole night before. I was panicked because I had seen Jaws, and like all of you I'm sure. In my head I pictured large great whites coming at me, unprotected, no cage, there's going to be blood in the water, this is going to be chaos. So I didn't sleep the whole night before, but what actually happened was one of the most interesting experiences in my life. When we got in the water, they did chum for these sharks. They were not great whites, of course. They were reef sharks. Black tip, white tip, and gray reef sharks. They were the most gentle things. They came in and checked you out. But what happened for me was, you remember the aquarium? Everybody's been to the aquarium? My brain put a piece of glass in between us. And so my brain, I wasn't in danger because I wasn't really swimming with these guys. And we were about 60 feet down or so, until one bumped me. And that's actually quite common. They do, like reef sharks do bump divers quite a bit. And that was when I was like, oh, I'm actually completely safe, I'm actually fine diving with these sharks. And that spurred a life, well, up to now, I'm 34. I've been diving with sharks for the past 14 years. Absolute passion in my life. So what I wanted to talk about tonight was just maybe introduce something that you might not know about sharks, and we'll go through that. I'm going to sit down if that's all right, so I can look at my notes here. So number one, I have 10. This is Amy's top 10 things you might not know about sharks. There's actually a word for studying sharks. So an ichthyologist is somebody who studies fish. A branch of fish is elasmology, which is the study of sharks and rays. Sharks are fish. They are not mammals, of course. They have no bones. They do have cartilage. And so it's a very, very long word. Elasmobrachiologist is a person who studies sharks. And so I kind of came up with my own word. I'm not sure if this is actually a word, but it is for me. I'm an elasmophile. That would make sense, right? I don't really know if that's an actual word, but it is my word. And you'll see down here, the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is conservation, and you're going to hear completely my opinion about stuff on this, so I'll be crystal clear for NORCAM. This is Amy's opinion of this. I used to watch Shark Week religiously, and I still do. But I do believe Shark Week is giving sharks a little bit of a bad name because they send a mixed message. One minute you're watching a program about how gentle and docile particular sharks are when they're not in a stirred up scenario, and the next second it's Jaws 3. You know, they go back and forth between sending mixed messages, and I can give you some more examples of that in a little bit. So sharks are older than dinosaurs. And what I wanted to do is just take a second to introduce you to some sharks that you might not know that are currently extinct, but they have some really cool adaptations. This is a helicoprion, and you can see the buzz-like jaw down the bottom. It's kind of unknown because they are cartilaginous fish, so we don't have much left of helicoprion except jaw structure. And it's thought that what they did was they would go into a school of fish and thrash around, kind of like saw sharks, thrash around and pick up the pieces after they kind of went after this ball of schooling fish. This guy may have reached up to 10 feet, so pretty good size. And I mentioned something about adaptions, and this is one of the coolest adaptions I think sharks have. They're called ampullae or lorenzini. Has anybody ever heard of that before? No. An ampullae? You have, you go?
It's like a line of dots.
You're actually combining two, lateral lines and ampullae. These little guys, I think I have a better picture. Oh, no. Ampullae are the tiny little dots on the shark's snout, but they're actually filled with a jelly-like material. And what these ampullae do is allow the shark to detect things like heartbeat, electrical impulses, and detection. So, for example, if I'm facing you, I can feel your heartbeat in my nose. It's like having a constant twitch, and it allows the sharks to detect live things. You're sure maybe you're familiar with hammerheads? They're filled with ampullae, and that's how they detect the heart rate. The other thing that Hugo was just referencing was the lateral line. And the lateral line is not unique to sharks, but it is a very cool adaptation. It's used to detect electronic fields. And by this way, a shark who kind of swims like this, if there is prey over here, it picks it up on its body. It doesn't have to be facing it, see it. It can detect the electromagnetic pulses on its body. It's a constant stimulus coming at the shark. Makes them very effective predators if they are predatory fishes. And some of them are not, so we're going to talk about those too. Number 3, some sharks are pink. I mentioned, I think I'm pretty good, I have a picture. So these are goblin sharks. Most of people have never heard of them, but because they're deep water sharks. The one on the top left is actually a picture. One was caught off the coast of Japan and kept in an aquarium in Japan for quite a while. And it's hard to tell from this picture, but it's actually very pink, pale pink. And again, deep water sharks, so it's unlikely you'll come across those guys. The top 2 biggest sharks don't hunt. Anybody know what's the biggest? So actually, it says up there, I think. The whale shark. They are the largest fish in the ocean, and they are my personal favorite. So as part of my diving career, I am becoming certified as a master scuba diver as well as a dive master. Those are actually 2 different things. And very confusing, but a master diver means that I have at least 5 specialties, and a dive master means that I can teach. So I'm pursuing both of those branches of diving. And I actually have a specialty in whale shark diving. My experience with whale sharks has been one of the highlights of my diving career up until last November, I went scuba diving in Iceland, and that was without a doubt the best dive in my life. And I talk about that another time. But the whale sharks are the most gentle things. In 2 places in the world, they have them in captivity. One is in Japan, and the other one is at the Georgia Aquarium. Has anybody been to the Georgia Aquarium? They have 4 whale sharks in captivity. And this brings me up to a point where, again, this is Amy's opinion, and I struggle with this because as somebody who loves swimming with sharks, I am a terrible shark diver because every time I go, most times when I go on a shark expedition, they don't show up. So if you are afraid of sharks, I'm the person to go with you because they actually hate me. I don't know how they get a word that I'm coming. But for that matter, when I got my whale shark certificate, I did so without diving with whale sharks because on the 3 trips that I went on, every boat in Honduras saw the whale sharks except for this girl. Similarly, the year after I was diving in Thailand, every boat saw whale sharks in the Gulf of Thailand except for this girl. So for me, it was a matter of I really wanted to have this experience with these animals, and I ended up going to the Georgia Aquarium to dive with the whale sharks. Now, should these very large animals be kept in captivity? Pros and cons, of course. I will tell you that the tank is huge. I will also tell you that the whale sharks are unbelievably intelligent. When I was there shortly, my dive was shortly after they were being fed. And they're filter feeders, there's no danger of a predatory situation, but there are some hammerheads in that same tank. There's also some sand tiger sharks in that tank. But there's 4 sharks. Every shark had its own colored bucket. So Alice is the name, they're all named after the honeymooners, Alice and Ralph. Alice had a pink feeding bucket. And when Alice's diver put the pink feeding bucket in, Alice, I'm talking about a whale shark that was like 30 feet long, went to her tiny little pink bucket. Fred did, Ralph didn't. It knew which color was its feeding bucket. So they're unbelievably intelligent. And when you put anything, has anybody seen the documentary Blackfish? Okay, I highly recommend it. It's about the orcas that are kept at SeaWorld. If you want to get a different perspective, totally different perspective, it changed the way I look at it. It now changes the way I think about this. When you're putting intelligent creatures into captivity, is it to their benefit or is it to ours? Clearly it's to ours. This is actually a picture. So a couple of years after I did my confined water dive, I was able to go to Mexico and do one in open water. And having those 2 experiences of confined water and open water, I can tell you they're not comparable. The open water experience, when you're face down and all of a sudden this large creature comes up out of the deep blue, and this is deep water, to the point you definitely cannot see the bottom. It was the most amazing thing. And I wasn't scared. I actually have a little video of me, and I make this noise like, because I actually got so excited I kicked my fins, and I went like this because I was so excited. So this picture is actually a picture that I took in Mexico. And see if I can show you. It's actually right around here. And as I'm swimming next to it, you can see it looking at me, just like I'm checking it out. Its eyes moving up and down and checking me out. And for a while I was keeping up with it. That's a picture, we had 4 of them with us. That's another one. You can get a kind of a good idea of how big it was. I couldn't get it all in one shot. And that previous shark, when it was checking me out, and I was keeping up with it because it was just gentle filter feeding. And what happened was it got tired of me. With one swish of its tail, it had tripled its body length. The amount of power that these things have, and to us, we're like ants. Not aggressive, just checked me out, I checked him out, we were cool, we went on our merry ways, I had the experience of my life. The picture on the left, I did not take, but that gives you an idea of how they do filter feed. They take in everything, they filter out plankton and small fish, but the picture on the left I did take. And that's the most dangerous part of a whale shark, the tail, the dorsal tail, because like I said, we are just little ants to them, and so with one swish, it could easily knock a diver out. And it's not intending to, just, hey, I'm done with you, see you later. And that is a basking shark. So this is the 2nd largest shark. Basking sharks are so large and slow that people have thrown anchors on them, thinking that they are sandbars. From the top, you can't really see the color in this. They look kind of sandy colored. People have actually thrown anchors on them, thinking they were trying to land on a sandbar. Again, filter feeders, very gentle. We do get basking sharks up here in New England, which is exciting. I've never seen one. But talk about the sensationalism of the news. Last year there was a shark attack down on the Cape where somebody who was kayaking was being pursued by a great white. And it actually turned out to be a basking shark who was just floating in the water. And that's what actually happened. But it was reported as a great white was stalking this kayaker.
Excuse me?
Yes.
What's the name of that shark?
A basking. Basking. Yep. So I do want to talk a little bit about, we'll start getting into more predatory sharks. And what you might not know is not all sharks eat all the time. Some sharks only eat when they're full. There is no typical to a shark's eating patterns because they're all different. So great whites are going to be very different from sharks that have a slower metabolism. Great whites have a very high metabolism. Thank you. And so, in general, a shark eats about 1 to 10% of its total body weight per week. Now, predatory sharks are opportunistic for the most part, and some do stalk. So, the great white shark does stalk. It's able to stick its head out of the water and check out seals, mostly. And I'm happy to tell you that none of us are fat enough to be yummy for sharks. So when I hear about how great whites want to prey on swimmers or divers, I have to laugh because that would have to be a very large swimmer for a shark to even kind of get its attention. It's opportunistic. So if that swimmer was injured, it would pose as being an easy prey. And unfortunately, sometimes sharks take taste bites and realize that we don't have the fat content of a seal and spit us out. Problem is that severs an artery, and so the swimmer might bleed out, and that's how that happens most of the time. But I will address the megalodon because this to me is one of the most interesting ancient sharks out there. This is a good. So the picture on the left is I meant to bring it. I actually have a megalodon too. The picture on the left is a friend of mine in a set of megalodon jaws in Australia. So I'm 5'2" on a good day. To give you an idea, and the picture on the left is my adult cousin holding a megalodon tooth with 2 hands.
Wow.
So these guys got pretty big. To give you an idea, compared to a diver, but more importantly to give you an idea versus a current modern day great white, these guys got up to about 40 feet. So pretty much the size of a whale shark, but as a predatory animal. The next few slides I will show you are not real, so I'm telling you that ahead of time. But to kind of give you an idea of how big it could be, this is an artist's rendition. So what they did for renditioning? So what they did was they took a picture of a great white here and they blew it up 3 times the size. And that's how they got that picture. But this one's a little bit more creepy. Can you see that in the back? Yeah.
Oh.
That's a pretty big exaggeration.
Oh dear.
But in the book Jaws, written by Peter Benchley, if that shark really did exist, it would have been a megalodon because of the size in which he describes that shark. Again, extinct. Has anybody seen, did anybody watch Shark Week this past summer? Okay. Discovery Channel and the Animal Planet has a kind of a habit going on right now. Has anybody seen the mermaid documentary?
Oh, I did.
Okay. So there's a little habit going on and it's doing great for ratings, where they're presenting documentaries as real, but they're just fictional stories. Well, they did this one on mermaids. Then they did a follow-up to mermaids, because it did so well in the ratings. And in the past year on Shark Week, and this is another argument I have, they did one that the megalodon still exists, and it attacked a boat off of South Africa.
Oh.
It's really irresponsible. I had kids in my youth group. We watched the mermaids thing, and I said, what do you guys think about it? And some of them believed die hard that it was real, and some of them were like, this is clearly fake. It's not doing a great job. It's not doing what I would think Animal Planet and Discovery Channel, in Amy's opinion, would like to do in terms of educating people. It showed a megalodon documentary, and it was posed as real. It was an attack off of the coast. It was like, literally, so this showed in August, they had it setting in April the same year. That just a couple months ago, this is hot off the press stuff. It was really irresponsible. That's not Peter Benchley. I mentioned that I'm a terrible shark attractor, and here's my proof right here. So, when I was 26, I decided to leave the YMCA of Greater Boston and take a trip to go do a great white expedition off the coast of southern Australia. And I decided that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it with the best of the best. And so I found the best of the best, and he's right there. His name is Rod Fox. He and his son, Andrew, run shark expeditions. They're one of, I think, 2 or 3 licensed to do so off the southern coast of Australia. I still keep in touch with Andrew. But Rod likes to come on expeditions every now and again. He and his wife are both passionate about it. And what Rod's story is that when he was in his 20s, he was abalone fishing, and this is a common cause for great white attacks, specifically in Australia, that they attack based on competition. And so he was spearfishing, abalone actually, but there was some blood in the water from fish, and a great white attacked him and actually took a really big chunk right here. And there's a graphic picture of it, I have it. And he survived, and what he did was he became a great white advocate, and I don't know if I could do that, but he said, you know what, I'm going to save these animals. They have a terrible reputation because Australia was notorious at the time for killing them. And so Rod invented the great white shark cage, and he did so after a lot of testing. Many of you might have heard the story. What I can tell you is that the guy that built that cage decided to widen the bars and change his model, and to give the diver more of experience that they're with the shark. So he had widened the bars.
They were.
But none of you heard that. What you heard is the shark ran the shark cage and got in and attacked the diver. You didn't hear about how he had altered the shark cage design. And so the reason that we are in this picture, we're actually on like a little Zodiac boat in that picture. And I took that picture because I was on a boat with him for 4 days and not one great white shark came.
Oh.
And that happened to him once in 14 years. This girl's on that trip. Yep, and so what do you do with Rod Fox when there's no sharks? Take a guess. 4 days. 3 days, 3.5 days on a boat. We watched Jaws. All of them, because Rod is also the consultant for Jaws. He was very close with Peter Benchley, and he's still the consultant for Jaws rides in Universal Studios. But what happened was, I don't know if you can see over his left shoulder, there's something sticking out of water. And I sent that picture to him, and I said, don't tell me that was a fin. We were on the Zodiac when the shark showed up, and he said it might be, who knows, you can't tell. But in my mind, of course, I have that, that's a shark. So Peter Benchley, after realizing what happened with the Jaws hysteria, actually became a very big great white advocate. And so this is actually a copy of Jaws, and he autographed it to Rod. And it says, to Rodney, who first showed me the wonder of white sharks. In Australia they call them white sharks or white pointers. We call them great whites. Who showed me the wonders of white sharks in the flesh more than 2 decades ago in 2K, and for K2, of course. K is Rod's wife. From their friends, and I can't read that last word, travel companions, Winnie and Peter Benchley. And so he drew that shark. Yeah. So after writing Jaws and all the hysteria of what Jaws did to keeping people out of the water, Peter Benchley actually regretted becoming in film and became a great white advocate. We'll back up just to let you know, currently, the Fox family is involved in protesting against the culling that's going on in Western Australia. There were a couple of attacks in Western Australia recently, and the government of Western Australia decided to issue a cull. And they're taking any large sharks. There's no way to say, hey, I'm going to take the great whites versus the tigers. There's no way to do that. And so what the Fox family is doing right now is monitoring those barrels to make sure that sharks are being let go appropriately and protesting against the government. It's really unfortunate, and they've killed, I think, 50 large sharks. So you can coexist safely in the same water with sharks.
You can see some statistics up there. I won't read them to you, but you're more likely to die from a falling coconut. Every year, 100 people die from a falling coconut in the world. And very low numbers of, and the key word on that first sentence is unprovoked. When you're in the water and you're poking at it, I don't care what the animal is. You're poking at it, you're going to get a reaction. So
Shark attack. That was 2011. I haven't looked at the 2013, but you can look at the International Shark File data if you're interested in that. So here are some tips that I learned to safely dive with predatory sharks. And again, I'm talking about predatory versus the filter feeders, like the whale sharks. Always ask local divers about the shark. So you might not be diving with great whites. It might be a tiger shark or a bull shark. Bull sharks are quite notorious for taking taste bites, and when they bump into things, they like to take a nip. So I actually am more hesitant to dive with a bull shark than a great white shark, because they're a little bit more likely to do taste bites, if you will. Always dress appropriately. This is an unproven theory that yellow attracts sharks. Not proven, but just in case you might want to avoid it. Avoid erratic movement. Are you looking hurt? Remember, we talked about predatory sharks are often looking for opportunistic opportunities to take a bite from an injured prey. So don't thrash around, because it looks like you're hurt. You can look, but don't touch. And there's a great example of somebody who's not doing what they really should be doing. And I could talk some other time about what he's trying to do, and I know what he's trying to do is put the shark into what's called a tonic immobility. It's a phenomenon where they found with smaller sharks, if you rub their noses, you can almost manipulate them. You can turn them over. It's related to mating, actually, they think. And what that guy's trying to do is test out that theory with the great white.
Did he live?
Yeah, he did. Stay away from the chum. In the United States, it's illegal to chum for sharks for the purposes of tourism. But in Mexico, it's totally legal. Most of the Caribbean is totally legal. Get underwater, dead things float. And I'm going to show you a picture of this in just a second. Read the sharks, look for signs. Bull sharks in particular, when they're about to attack, they lower their noses. Some great whites do too. But you'll learn to read their facial movements and their body posture. And be a responsible participant. Don't hurt anything. Because if you start attacking fish, or if you're spear fishing and you're going after fish, your competition for that shark's natural prey. So I just wanted to give you a couple pictures I took. These are all Mexican sharks. Oh, that shark on the bottom is the only shark that's ever hurt me. And what happened was, can you see how bright that picture is? I had a strobe on my camera, and I took that picture, and it spooked the shark, and it swished its tail, and hit me right in the face. And when it hit me in the face, it actually, we didn't talk about this, but sharks have skin that's like sandpaper going one way. The other way it's totally smooth because they're streamlined, but the other way it's like sandpaper. They're called denticles on its skin, and that's what cut my face. I didn't feel it. I just saw the blood go up my mouth. And again, not that shark's fault. My fault. I scared it, and it wasn't trying to hurt me either. It was trying to get away from its camera. Let me explain. These are some reasons why large predatory shark bites occur. And I'm not going to read them all to you because we're running out of time, but you might want to know how great whites are like little babies. What do babies do when they want to try something? They put it in their mouth, right? That's my little cousin Cameron. And when he was a baby, he did nothing but put things in his mouth to see if it was edible or not. Which is exactly what sharks do. They don't have fingers, they can't talk, they can't ask, they don't have hands. What they do is take taste bites, and that's the most common cause of shark attacks. What we call shark attacks, shark professionals call them shark accidents. We just use a sensational word. So this is a better demonstration of why some mistaken identities occur. Obviously you can see two divers. That could be me and you, Bob. There we are, that's Bob and I. Those are two of his favorite snacks, mostly either fat or seal. And so you can see how, from a deep, murky water perspective, an accident could happen, and that shark might want to taste that taste bite, because again, it can't say, hey, are you my prey? Just another little example, especially with surfers when their feet hang off the back. Yeah. So this is where I want to kind of wrap this up. But over 70 million sharks are killed annually for finning, skins, or catch for other luxuries. And I always like to end it on a little bit of advocacy and ask you, is anybody familiar with finning? It's a huge problem. Finning. It happens mostly in Asian countries where massive quantities of sharks are captured. Their dorsal and pectoral fins are cut off for used for medicinal purposes, but also for shark fin soup. And this is what they do with the bodies. They throw them back in the water. Alive. These particular species, there are some species that are able to stop and still breathe, like the nurse shark. These species are not able to breathe without moving, and so they suffocate to death. And I like to pose that if these were kittens, we would have a little bit more of an uproar. But they're not. They're something that we were brought up to fear. And so it's very quiet. Right now, there are, I believe, 12 restaurants in the greater Boston area that serve shark fin soup. And so, well, right? You'd think this happens overseas. I actually left a restaurant in Thailand because it served shark fin soup. I won't go there. And so what I ask you is that if you see that on the menu, if you could just not necessarily voice your opinion, just not eat there. Don't support them. Because this is how they get their fins. So this was actually hanging in a full-length size, by the way. It kind of took me by surprise in the ceiling of the aquarium in Melbourne, Australia. But this brings me to the other thing that you can do. Do you buy your children and grandchildren books? Of course, right? And I encourage you to do so. What I ask you to do, though, is to look through them very carefully. And are they showing all sharks like this? Probably, right? Here's another good one that's actually for a younger audience. When they show great whites only in this position with their mouths open, what message does that send to the kids? Fear me. Yeah. And not just with great whites, but where is it? Great whites are so dangerous, divers who study and photograph them stay in a strong safety cage. I gotta tell you, that's not true anymore. There are many divers who dive in open water with great whites. So I just ask that when you're looking to purchase your kids' books about underwater life, maybe something like this would be great. This is my children's ocean life encyclopedia, where it discusses sharks in terms of what we are doing wrong as well. And also, this is another good one I found. This is called From Fear to Fascination, a SeaWorld Busch Gardens educational program. And it talks about a variety of sharks, not just the sensational great white, and the science behind them, including their biology, their lateral lines, their amblyoplar lorenzini, like we talked about. So that's a couple things that I can ask you to do. And also, if you're purchasing stuffed animals for your loved ones, this is my little guy from Georgia, then maybe you consider not buying the scary great white. Then maybe you consider buying the gentle filter feeder. And so I like showing Bruce up here because has everybody seen Finding Nemo?
Oh, yeah.
So Finding Nemo, he kind of starts off as the gentle guy, right? And then he smells blood, he becomes a villain, but at the end he's able to overcome. And so I like what they do with Finding Nemo because it shows him in a great white in a little different light. He's not the villain through the whole movie. And I'll end on that. Did you know the ocean gets its saltiness from the tears of misunderstood sharks? You just want to cuddle. Not to that point, because I, again, don't encourage anybody to touch them, but just to the point where sharks are really greatly misunderstood. And I am speaking from somebody who, when I got my dive license and he told me you're gifted to shark dive, I couldn't sleep that night. And now it's one of the biggest passions of my life.
Thank you for staying late.
Thank you.
All right.